Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us, whether here in Bonn or watching online or at a later time on demand. My name is Timothy Damon. I'm the founder and president of the Global Youth Development Institute. We're an admitted observer organization here to the UNFCCC process, and we're convening this press conference on a very important topic for us, that is how we will ensure the meaningful civic engagement of young people in the COP29 and in climate action, focusing, of course, on Azerbaijan. So to lay a little context for this, I myself have been involved in this process now for 10 COPs. And one of the beautiful things that I've seen about this is that each time a host country is able to have the COP, that you see a huge growth in the ability of young people in those countries to be able to also participate. And there's all the formal avenues through which that happens. There's the Conference of Youth that is organized for many, many, many years through Youngo, the youth constituency. Many networks, of course, are also part of this, and organizations from within the countries. And so it's very important as we're looking toward COP29 in Azerbaijan to see how will the youth in Azerbaijan be able to benefit from this hosting of the COP effect, that we might call it. And it's for any of the other work that's going to happen for the COP, and of course for Global Youth Development Institute, we do capacity building and training of young people, but this also requires that the young people have the right conditions, that civil society has the right conditions to be able to benefit from that training, to be able to meaningfully participate. So the full enjoyment of human rights and civic liberties is foundationally essential for any of the other work that we're trying to do in the climate space to empower young people and to have them meaningfully engaged. Now, we are going to potentially be able to be joined remotely by Leyla Hasanova, who is the Presidency Youth Climate Champion. Unfortunately, she already had to leave Bonn, so we're forgive our technical work. We're trying to make it feasible for us to hopefully have an intervention from her. But in the meanwhile, we will continue on with our panelists here. So we're very happy in this context of the COP and the global youth space and why that matters for young people, to hear from our two speakers. And we have Maria and Emin, and we'll hear first. Emin is from Azerbaijan, but we'll hear first from Maria for more of the global context of this conversation. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Maria Reyes. I am a Mexican climate justice and human rights activist and part of the youth climate justice movement. And we have been saying these days and in the last COPs that there is no climate justice without human rights. And so as members of the international climate justice movement, it is our responsibility to be conscious of the human rights violations that are being committed in the territories where the UN Climate Change Conference is taking place. It is our responsibility to not be complicit with oppressive powers wanting to use international momentums to reivindicate their narratives. We have observed with deep concern that since the announcement of COP29, the arrests of human rights defenders in Azerbaijan have increased, shrinking the already narrow civic space in the country, and affecting the ability of civil society and youth groups to advocate for our demands through demonstrations and free speech during COP29. But more importantly, creating a gap of engagement from local youth civil society, who will not be able to participate in the same way as international people, since they are more likely to face severe consequences due to this. This is going to be a tremendous loss for us as international climate movement. Isolating local youth from participating in these spaces because they're scared of the repercussions should not be the way forward. However, the shrinking civic space is not subject only to the restrictions of the host countries. It gets replicated as well inside the United Nations venues when the inside police and security make up their own rules. As observers, we are subject to the code of conduct that the Secretariat and the UNFCCC are providing us to engage in this space. And so therefore, security officials should be subject to this code of conduct as well. I would like to share with you two incidents that have been happening these last 2 weeks in which the participation of observers in this space has been compromised. Last Wednesday, during the first week of the UNFCCC subsidiary bodies meeting, the COP29 presidency hosted a side event on peace and climate. But kicked out from the room observer Palestinian youth climate activist Mohamed Usrof, while keeping in the room party representatives of the settler state committing genocide against his people. He was told that the event was for parties only, but other observers were allowed in after he was kicked out. Today, a member of the Women and Gender constituency was entering this building in the morning, and she was wearing a hoodie with a symbol of a watermelon, which we have been told by UNFCCC Secretariat that it is allowed. And she was stopped by the people in the security line because they were saying she was wearing propaganda. They were telling her that the rules on the symbols that were permitted in this venue had changed, and when she requested proof, written proof of that, they were not able to provide it. This is extremely concerning for us because it is a proof of intimidation and harassment towards us as civil society. And so it is urgent that not only the COP29 presidency, but all of the members and stakeholders that are responsible to making this a safe environment act on these matters. As youth groups that engage in the UNFCCC processes, we urge the United Nations and the COP29 presidency to ensure a safe and secure environment of local and international engagement, ensuring open visa access, allowing demonstrations, and respecting the principles of freedom of speech to raise human rights concerns in the context of COP29, but also holding the designated venue security to account of the code of conduct that us as observers have to respond to as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. And yes, for those who've also been following in the AIM room and also followed last year those negotiations where there was new language on addressing sexual harassment by the presidency in part of organizing the COP, we hope again to see that the rules will apply equally to everyone and that, this is part of the host country agreement and is very much something that will be addressed. Very happy now to get more of the direct experience of what is going on with Azerbaijan. So, Emin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tim, and we appreciate for your organization hosted us on such an important moment for all civil society actors in Azerbaijan, because we are now under an unprecedented level of the pressure of our government, which has existed for last 31 years. Why I want to mention it first about this, because I'm 44 years activist. I'm started here like a youth activist, spent 10 years of my life as youth activist after start to focusing investigative journalist, human rights defenders, human rights lawyer. And now I'm trying to do as much as I can. I'm still feeling myself young, but again, this government, which is only current president, staying already on the 5th presidential terms for the last 21 years, these politicians, they stole our youth. They stole 31 years of our life, and not it's only my life. I would like to show this colleagues, these 3 environmental journalists, Nargiz Absalamova, Sevinç Vakıfkızı, Elnara Gasımova. These 3 young journalists arrested because they are exposed huge, massive environmental disaster, which is produced by the golden mining companies, which is honored by presidential family. And today, unfortunately, these people are not able to be with us. They are in jail in Azerbaijan. They are prosecuted, they are tortured. And we have 300 political prisoners. And I would like to show only 3 of them, because only 3 of them it's women. Why the government arrests them? Because they try to show, even in Azerbaijan, when we have traditions for do not prosecute, a vulnerable representative, they say, look, we are not forced, we are not arrested elders or kids or young people. Now, if you want to see, they have already 3 brave young women put it to the prison because for their job. And now they start to arrest also other people, like people who's fighting for disabled people rights. Imagine like this guy arrested on the eve of the World Press Freedom Day, just in the May. The Famil Khalilov, activist, blogger, who call for transparency, accountability to protect disabled people rights, is person which is have a paralysis. He can't walk. He need 24/7 assistance, and he's like one of the strongest voice of these disabled people in Azerbaijan. 1.5 million people have disabilities. Imagine this big numbers of people, because since 1917, when international oil companies start to produce oil, Azerbaijan is very polluted area, and many like kids. It's by the baby days, it's like a hugest numbers. Azerbaijan is top numbers 3 countries in the world. And this person also prosecuted because they're, what the government do for the last 1 year, they just like literally increase political repressions. And today, when all opposition, all independent media voices, in fact, in prison, they start to attack last vulnerable groups, disabled people. And now it's surviving in the prison, in detention center, without any kind of medical assistance. And that's why I believe it's kind of important to raise awareness around people like him. But again, we're not able to mention all of these names. I just would like to, again, say, government of Azerbaijan not give any opportunities for youth generation. Imagine like which kind of opportunities we have. If you, when you like burn, and after you are 30 years old person, and you don't have any chance to realize yourself, because country don't have any opportunity for peaceful democratic transitions. If it's anyone who is elected to the parliament or local municipalities, they're appointed by presidential administrations, it's no any chance for youth in Azerbaijan for the last 30 years. And since from 2015, youth activists not able to, not only even youth activists, even like a political opposition, not able to make realize their freedom of assembly and association in the middle of Baku. In fact, we have moratorium by the government. And today, another youth activist which has decided to create new trade union, they're also jailed with fabricated drug smuggling charges. Imagine, famous human rights defenders, famous like environmental journalists, they're arrested with money smuggling charges. Why? Because all of them working as like non-profit NGO staff members, and all of them received funding from EU, from other like-minded states, from private donors around the world. They're not able to receive their money amounts to their own bank accounts. They're obliged to go to the neighbor Georgia, open bank accounts there. They pay taxes in Azerbaijan, but government start to use this reason to prosecute dozens of brave people who expose grand corruption, who expose environmental problems, who defend like human rights, rule of law, who work on electoral integrity. And today, again, it's a 5th presidential term for President Aliyev, who right after COP decide to organize snap presidential elections. And he's re-elected with a 93%, and all of the international institutions who observe these elections find these elections undemocratic. But it's no problem. Aliyev looking forward for this COP29, because the main reason for him to host the COP29, not because he's really care about our green world. The names which is they shows for in solidarity with the green world is just like greenwashing slogan. It's nothing compared with the current bloody realities which is we have in Azerbaijan. Unfortunately, COP29 created on the bones and blood of the Azerbaijani youth community, Azerbaijani trade union activists, civil society representatives, and the journalists. And we believe we need to raise more awareness around this, call to the Azerbaijani government, show the political will, stop all political repressions. Imagine a year ago, we have only 100 political prisoners. Today, we have 300 political prisoners. We're calling the like-minded state. Do not compromise, do not give up, be more outspoken. After 1 week of our participation here in the SB60, we observe only 3 international NGOs which is make very outspoken statement using plenary meetings, which is organized, especially related topics with Azerbaijani presidency. We are appreciated this, but we also what we look, it's big misinformation. Still, our colleagues from more than 3,000 NGOs which have admitted NGO observer status with UN FCCC, still have a lack of information about current realities, and that's why we are appreciate for team's support to organize. This is important meeting because we have dozens people here and hundreds maybe looking to us online and able to watch this video offline. We will able to respond to all questions, but I would like to stop here, and if team have any questions, I would love to speak a lot, but we have only 30 minutes, and maybe some of you have a questions or team have a questions. We're happy to respond.
Yes, thank you, Emin. So we do strictly have only 9 more minutes in this room, but of course we can then have any further discussions afterwards. We are still hopefully seeing whether we'll be able to have the Presidency Youth Climate Champion also to be able to join us with a remote intervention. The technical capabilities are rather strict in keeping us from being able to do that optimally. But to clarify for those who also joined us, the Global Youth Development Institute is generally convening this session for the purposes of really supporting youth to be able to engage in climate action. So the remarks of myself are for GYDI, and the remarks of the panelists are their own remarks. And we really did want to have, and we might be having as well, because we would love to have as well from the presidency able to join us. Excuse me. Hello, yes. We're here in the press conference. If you would be able to make an intervention, we're happy to receive that. We'll try to make it audible. Let me please test speaking.
Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, try speaking again. Sorry, we have very difficult, there's no formal technical support for virtual participation. So if you can try speaking again.
Am I audible?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, yes, you are audible. Please proceed. Thank you. We're happy to have you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Hello, everyone, guests. I was listening to this panel discussion. Many interesting points were raised. I would like to briefly inform you about what we are having currently and what are the plans for the COP29 Azerbaijan.
You're back on mute.
Am I audible still?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Great. Well, COP29 will happen at a time when the world actually realizes it must do more to tackle climate change. And it's clear from the scientific data and evidence all around us that we're not yet on track to achieve our goals. We are approaching COP29 with a sense of urgency and determination and the commitment to make it as effective, transparent, and inclusive as it's possible. Sitting at the crossroads of the world, Azerbaijan has a long history of building bridges between East and West, and it's a fact, as well as the developed and developing worlds. This unique position and my nation's proud multicultural heritage will serve to bring all parties together at COP29. Not just nation states, but youth and NGOs, which will be our main focus for this year. In Azerbaijan, our climate action starts at home, in our schools and workplaces, in our villages, towns, and cities, and in our regions. We are partnering with local authorities to develop youth-friendly tools for climate action and support young climate activists, innovators, and entrepreneurs. And there are so many ways to support youth and children inclusion in COP process, and we are on it currently. The climate challenge may be daunting, but it's not impossible to tackle, because climate change is a shared challenge. Its solution can lie only in mutual support and collective action. And if we go hand in hand, then there is a possibility to solve these issues together. Achieving this common goal is not just the shared responsibility of the international community, it's on all of us. That includes NGOs, youth organizations, the business community, philanthropies, and indigenous communities as well. It's on us as the younger generation who play a critical role in holding these parties to account. We will work to promote an inclusive process where everyone's voices are heard and that delivers inclusive outcomes based on fair and shared solutions. Azerbaijan is experienced in running inclusive multilateral diplomacy, most notably through its recent chairmanship of the non-aligned movement and its efforts to ensure that everyone's voices were heard and their interests represented. Young people and future generations will be impacted the most by the climate crisis and inherit some of the greatest challenges. Current youth are the largest generation ever. They will have the greatest needs as climate change reduces the planet's ability to support populations. Youth representation in formal climate negotiations has historically been limited, unfortunately. Governments and international bodies often lack an understanding of how to meaningfully engage with youth in developing, implementing, and reporting on climate action plans. And that's why actually my role was established at COP28. Youth representation was established in the COP process by formally establishing the Office of the Youth Climate Champion. And we are making progress at involving youth more in climate diplomacy, locally, in Azerbaijan, and globally. Thank you, and we are open to any questions on this regard.
Yes, thank you very much. We appreciate your flexibility in being able to join us remotely, given the difficulties. So we now have very much only 3 minutes for any questions that anyone may have from the floor. We have a microphone that can be handed to you, so please, by raise of hand, if anyone to any of the panelists has any questions or remarks. Seeing none, yeah, happy to hand the floor back to our panelists for any last remark. Keep in mind, very short.
Each of us 1 minute.
45 seconds.
Yeah.
We do need to leave the room right on time.
Thank you. We are appreciated for Ms. Leyla Hasanova able to join us remotely. We are still looking forward for she's also able to engage with the presidency team, with the high-level officials regarding our raised problems, especially to release all young people who is prosecuted illegally but politically motivated charges, and especially for 3 young, brave environmental journalists, which is we are mentioning in advance. So we happy to engage with all stakeholders, everyone who want to be connected with us, able to send us requests. We will launching soon website, which is named COP29.host, when we also provide alternative pictures about what's going on in Azerbaijan, and we try to be realize our online interventions via this website. But we're happy to cooperate with all stakeholders, including Azerbaijani government, including UNFCCC, and with all international and local observers and individuals. And I appreciate for your support. We are finishing this in solidarity with green world and just planet, because we believe, as like my colleagues say, no climate justice without justice at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Lastly, again, as a member of the International Youth Climate Movement, there is no climate justice without human rights, and we should not be complicit with oppressive powers trying to use international momentums as COP to hide the human rights violations that are happening in their regions. We need youth inclusion or beyond youth tokenism. And again, really calling on the UNFCCC and the COP29 presidency to ensure that there is appropriate training and clarification for the UN security to avoid harassment and intimidation to observers to keep happening in these spaces. Thank you.
And with that, we're right at the extent of our time, but I mean, we welcome all of our panelists, the Presidency Youth Climate Champion, Emin, Maria, all of you. We can continue these conversations outside the room, but looking forward to work together as all of us to make sure that we really have the best conditions for success for COP29 and youth engagement in Azerbaijan. Thank you.
Thank you.